President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to begin dismantling the U.S. Department of Education.
And while a full closure would require congressional approval, critics are concerned about the potential impact of the president's action on vulnerable students and essential services. Let's bring in ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang, for more on this story. Selena, always good to see you. And we'll start with this first. Walk us through this executive order and tell us how it will work.
Hey, DeMarco. Yeah, so completely getting rid of the Department of Education requires an act of Congress. But what this executive order does is it directs Trump's education secretary to do everything legally within her power to dismantle and diminish this department. And guys, that process is already underway. Just last week, the department fired about half of its staff. So the president's thinking here is that too much money has been spent on this federal agency without better academic outcomes. So he wants to return the powers of the education department back to the states. But it's unclear how exactly this is going to achieve that when curriculums are already set at the state and local levels and public school funding is also mostly set by state and locals.
Selena, what exactly does the Department of Education do?
Yeah, so it has several critical functions, including overseeing the student loan process for students also applying for financial aid. It also enforces civil rights laws to prevent discrimination in schools. It also oversees funding to help low-income students and students with disabilities. Now, the Trump administration is saying that these core functions are going to be preserved and that some of them are just going to be shifted to other agencies. But that's not really easing the concerns of so many parents and educators across this country who are worried about the future of these programs without the same level of staffing, expertise, and resources. Education groups are warning that the most vulnerable students are going to be harmed by the most by this.
What about prospective college students? I know you talked about student loans and those who have the loans now.
Yeah, so there are big questions about how all of this is going to shake out, given the fact that the Education Department does oversee the federal student loan program, the process for applying for that student financial aid. But the White House is saying that these functions are going to continue uninterrupted. So borrowers keep on paying off your loans and prospective college students keep on filling out your FAFSA forms. But advocacy groups, they're watching this very closely. They say that with these major cuts to their staff, there are going to be interruptions to day-to-day operations. And also, it's going to impact the ability of the loan program to run smoothly.
You mentioned that to close the department, it would take an act of Congress. What are some of the scenarios that we could see play out here?
So almost immediately after President Trump signed that executive order, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy said that he's going to introduce legislation to completely dismantle the department. But it's very unlikely that's going to be successful because it would require 60 yes votes in the Senate, which means that Republicans would need to get Democrats on board, which is highly unlikely. Now, the idea of abolishing the department or moving it to other agencies, it's not entirely new. It's something Republicans have wanted to do for decades. They just haven't been able to get the necessary support. So this is something that President Trump had campaigned on. So in his view, this is a promise made. This is a promise kept. But education groups, they are already suing the Trump administration. So this could just be the start of a very long legal battle, guys.
It is far from over. Selena Wang at the White House with the very latest. Selena, thank you and good to see you as well.
You too.